probably, and I can use the word Rolodex with you guys because you're older like I am. I said to my kids one time, I'm like, man, this guy has an amazing Rolodex. And you would have thought I was speaking, Aramaic to my kids. Like, what did you just say, Dad? And I said, a Rolodex, one of those. And it's like, I realized they have no idea what I'm going like.
None. None.
So,
Jackie, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing good.
It's great to see you. You look fabulous.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you.
I wish it were as warm here as it is there, but oh well.
How is the weather right now? Did you get that storm that went through?
No. I mean, we got a little bit of it, but nothing really. I mean,
what's a little bit to you, Paul?
Well, no. I mean, there's nothing on the ground out here. It's just
okay. So. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. We actually need about 10 feet of snow here.
Oh gosh.
When I'm in Utah, I live north of Paul a little bit because my actual home is Carlsbad, California. So
okay.
Next to your weather, not this weather. And it was 15 degrees this morning when I went out and took the trash out to the trash barrel, trash cans, and I was like, my blood has thinned so much.
Jackie, I've got to tell you, when Richard and I talk periodically, he says, "Oh yeah, it's cold. I'm cold here this morning. It's below 70," and I'm like, it's 28 degrees here right now.
Wow. Anyway. Ooh, that's cool.
Well, by the way, where are you guys located? Just for my information.
Do you know St. Petersburg?
I love St. Petersburg.
Oh. Good. That's so funny to hear you say that. Yeah.
I do, because back in the early 90s, I launched the first nationwide golf reservation service, and my first East Coast golf courses who were on our service were in St. Pete.
Really?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I loved it because I got to go out there and pitch our services and our products, and is St. Augustine older, or is St. Pete the oldest settlement?
St. Augustine's the oldest city.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a beautiful place, so well done.
So,
thank you.
Dave, so Rich knows a bit about the product. He's actually even put together a little presentation. And Jackie has incredible Rolodex.
Thanks,
and Rich comes from the IT industry. He knows the space. And my thought is, my gosh, I'll just tell you, Dave, Jackie launched SAP software in Tech Data years ago without spending the millions of dollars that they suck the life out of companies doing. And Jackie, what was it? The president of the company even came out to visit and said, "How in the hell did she do that?"
Yes, yeah. So that was a big compliment. Especially, I was given 2 weeks' notice. Hey, we need you to do this. Can you fix it? Can you fix it and figure it out? So, anyway, that was exciting. Got the blood pumping.
But there was one particular healthcare company that she left a little while ago that they were, as Rich was telling me, they were looking for ways, and Rich or Jackie, you'll have to explain the company. I don't know, but I think one of your tasks was how do we within the company find ways to save money.
Right.
And so anyway, I've just remembered that, but Richard's always looking for something to do, so I thought, well, this might be a good opportunity here.
Thanks, Paul.
I think there's just lots of opportunity out there. I mean, Richard's told me about it, and I'm curious to go through this with you. But yes, Ability Network, it's an Inovalon company, so very large, lots of impact throughout the healthcare industry. So it's revenue cycle management and a clearinghouse, and they were purchased by a data organization. So data is very meaningful in healthcare, but it's more about that base of 40,000 customers all looking to try to figure out how do we maximize our dollars. There are lots of lost dollars, particularly in healthcare, whether you look at traditional healthcare, if you look at ambulatory, and if you look at any of the medical services, a lot of times they're not gleaning all the necessary dollars. maybe people can't pay, or perhaps they've had a credit card situation like you all are able to dig out those dollars and figure out how do you become more profitable. But it is a constant challenge in healthcare, and with COVID, it's only become more of a challenge. So with that, I'll stop and we can go through information.
Great. That's great information.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a typical Pavlov's dog intro, because I'm salivating just on the opportunities that have been kind of swirling around in my mind. So I'm anxious to talk to you. So should we get underway? And
Please.
Richard.
Well, and then Richard, please. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
Richard, just please let us know if this is redundant. Maybe not for Jackie, but but Dave does an excellent job. The reason I really wanted to have him on with us today is because he's done an excellent job of kind of condensing the information of the 8 software. You know, remember when we were talking about it a year ago, it was out in the weeds and they do so many things. And Dave's done because he spent, 20 plus years with TSYS Global in the industry, inside the industry. He knows this inside and out. And Dave's been kind enough to offer his help to me in really understanding. And then the other day, he and I went through his presentation. Anyway, I wanted you two to see this because it really, it's the beginning of a very good ability to explain what it is 8 does.
Well, the drool that's coming out of my mouth is twofold. I'm chomping at the bit as well, and I'm a blithering fool. So it's great. It's perfect.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's get started. Black, like Paul said, he actually ascribed 3 more years to me at Global TSYS than I had. I was there 17 years.
Okay.
Loved it. Had a blast. Built a business unit that got up to just about $200 million a year in annual revenues. And that's when TSYS said, "Oh, you need to come back," and I should do it in my southern accent. "You need to come back and live in Columbus, Georgia, where the rest of the management team is." And I just said, "Sorry, West Coast is my home. I'm out there a lot. I built this business, remotely." And they said, "Well, then we're going to have to part ways." And I said, "Okay,
wow.
that's fine." It was good. I walked away with the stock I'd earned over time, and it was a good thing. And I was ready to retire. Hitting just about 65 at the time. I thought, okay, I'm ready to go out and play and climb some more serious mountains and do some, really cool stuff. And it was actually through another friend, through Paul, that I was introduced to 8. And when I heard the value proposition the initial time, and my first exposure was through Troy, I said, I didn't believe it. I'm just like, this can't be possible. I've been in this space. I know this space. What they're claiming of, online, real-time, 100% reconciliation on every single transaction, plus all the extra data that comes with the transactions, they're just not possible. And so I spent 10 days with the team, the technology guys, with the owners and the C-suite folks, went out on a half a dozen sales calls with them, and I came back to my wife and said, I'm not ready to call it quits yet. I think I got one more really good run left in me, and I think I want to do it with 8. So here we are. And that in lies should put kind of a small good housekeeping stamp of approval on this, because coming from the largest processor in the world, whom, by the way, we use as our main rails into Visa MasterCard, says a lot. I mean, I wouldn't challenge, I wouldn't take an opportunity on ruining my reputation there if I didn't believe in this thing. And this thing is real. It's different. And so let's, if you don't mind, I think this enterprise presentation I've put together kind of best describes what this is. And again, Richard, this is really different than what we had before.
Great.
But, trusting that that's going to be good. So if I'm capable here, I'm going to pop up my screen share right there. And do you guys see that big, beautiful 8?
Not yet.
Here we go.
It should be in just a moment. There we go.
There we go.
Cool. All right. So 8, let me just move you guys down here in the corner and go back to that. So who are we? A lot of people say this, and the first words out of their mouth is, "Oh, you're another payment processor." Well, not really. We're a data science company that uses this proprietary payment data to solve industry-wide issues, and we're in all kinds of different businesses, banks, other payment companies. I went to another ISO, independent sales organization, who sells for Chase Payment Tech. And they said, "Well, why are you talking to us? We're your competition." I said, "Well, you are and you aren't. On the backside, no, you could be one of my biggest customers because of what we do on the back end." So we do payment companies, retail or card present companies, and of course, e-commerce companies who the card isn't present, they're doing their sales and their transactions online. So that's who. I like to tell the story that credit card, debit card processing is not sustainable. It's a phrase that's used a lot today. Make a sustainable business. Well, we believe that the credit card and debit card processing is not sustainable in its current fashion, and let me just kind of tell you why. So every company has electronic payments processing somewhere in their organization. They have to take payments, unless they're doing it cash or barter. But there's no transparency. There are a ton of hidden fees, no automatic reconciliation, and it's really more expensive than most people think it is. One of the exercises that I like doing, especially with my large enterprise clients, is, well, do you know
Paul, can you hear me?
How is it you're frozen?
You guys, you're frozen.
This is a common Teams thing. Just raise your hand. I think it was him because he was cutting out before.
Yes, I agree.
It's not us. Let's do this. I'm going to rejoin. Let's do this. I've got tea over there for you if you want it, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Cool.
I think you
We're
were
back
at the
one. Here
accounting.
we are. Thank you.
Let me just get these populated back.
Great.
So you've got all these groups that need information. Well, here's the big challenge and the issue that comes up. Whoops. So it's hard enough just to get it as it is. On a deadline, it's pure chaos. And it's like, well, where do we get it? What do we do? A lot of companies just start writing on an error margin and say, well, you know what? It's 0.5% error. We'll just round up and call it good for the day. Well, that's silly in a world where you have all the data available. So what makes this so hard and so unsustainable? Transparency is the first issue. We find, and this was from a 2019 MasterCard study, that 9% of the total available information on every single payment is being used by the processors, passing it on to the merchants. That's ridiculous. That's less than 10% of the available data. We take all the data, we digest all the data, we sort it, we stabilize it, and then we push it back to the merchant so they can have all this information. You might say, well, I don't need all the data. I just need to know how much it's costing me, and when I get declines, why it's declined, and double check. Well, yeah, you need all of that, but unless you have all the data, you can't make those calculations. And that's where we're different. We consume 100% of the data. It's also really complex. I'm just showing you here the minimum 8 touch points that a typical transaction goes through. If you look at our client base, the closer number is 11 to 12 touch points. But generally what you have is the POS, which is the point of sale or the point of entry into the processing stream. You have a gateway. The gateway is just exactly what it says. It's a gateway that allows information to flow back and forth. Typically, they're the ones who do the reporting of the information back to the client. Then you've got the big networks, the Visa, MasterCard network, and those are really the two main networks. American Express rides on the Visa, MasterCard network. Most people don't know that, but those are the two networks out there processing all the cards. Then you've got the card brands themselves, Visa and MasterCard, and American Express or JBC card or whoever the card, Discover card. They all have the ability to touch that transaction. And when I say touch it, I don't mean just touch it and look at it. They have the opportunity to downgrade it. They have the opportunity to add an extra fee to it. They have an opportunity to partially decline it, to fully decline it. Every one of these touch points can create an extra expense or a partial declination of the transaction. Then you've got the issuing bank, who's the bank that issues the card, that says, yep, we're willing to take that debit or credit on our books. And then you've got the acquiring bank, who's the bank of the merchant. Then you've got the Federal Reserve, who actually moves the money. And then you've got your merchant banking account. So again, every one of those touch points has an opportunity to add fees that you didn't agree to or don't know about, and or cause a declination of some portion of your transaction, if not the whole thing. Cost. We do a regular survey of all of our clients and say, okay, what were they paying before? The total cost of processing, everything. And our average for our clients is that they were paying about a full 1.5% more to handle payments than they are now with us. So it's costly. And, we've had some clients who've come in who were maybe only, 65 basis points more on electronic payments. We've had some that are 2.5% more, so 250 basis points more. It's all over the board. But we've never had a client that was paying at the same rate or had the same value as us when they first came to us to do the analysis of what it was costing. Time is money. Time is so important now to companies. And we find, again, from our internal client surveys, that it costs a company about 1 man-hour or woman-hour for every $125,000 in sales they do. So you can do the math. If you're, a company who's doing $100 million a year in $100 million a month in sales, or $100 million a year divided by 12, 8.5 million a month. You've got a lot of hours to go to reconcile those payments. Again, a lot of companies just go, you know what, I'm not going to spend the time, and I'm just going to take whatever they tell me. I'm not going to worry about reconciling down to what the costs are for my GL. That's just my cost of processing. If you talk to most CFOs, heads of accounting and finance, controllers, comptrollers, they'll tell you they want to know, but there's just no way you can find it. Well, not until now. So quick review, it's not sustainable because nobody's using all the data. It's complex and errors abound. It's expensive and lots of unproductive time. So what is the what is the world of modern payments supposed to look like? We think we've got the solution, and it has to do with transparency online and automation. Let me talk about each of those. First of all, transparent. One of the things we pride ourselves on at 8 is we are full disclosure on everything, even our own costs, so that when we go out and price a potential client and say, look, we're going to do your processing for the Visa MasterCard cost, which is what they charge everybody in the world, and then we're going to add our cost on top of that, which will be, let's say, 25 basis points. And you can track us, you can watch us, I'll show you when we do the demo exactly what I mean, where you can hold us accountable. It's a lot better to be transparent and be able to explain where the charges came from rather than go, we don't really know. Mm-hmm. And that's a big, big deal in today's world of electronic payments. Mm-hmm. Online. All of our stuff is online. We believe that giving the power to the merchant is what's key here. When I show you the demo, I'll pull up an actual customer. We can go through and look at all the online charges. You can get right down to a single charge. You can get down to the customer. You can do full an annualized reconciliation of all the payments with the appropriate journal entries to put into their ERP. It's pretty amazing. Customizable reports that are easy to do, and every transaction is available in seconds. And yes, we are a cloud-based company, AWS, so it doesn't require our customers to set up a different server on site, and we can hook into whatever other systems they have for reporting requirements. Automation, 100% automated. APIs available for the ERP and accounting systems. Currently, we are integrated into NetSuite, SAP, QuickBooks, Acorn, and the last one we just did, oh gosh, I don't remember the name, Sage. And getting integrated into an ERP is not that hard. Frankly, the hardest part is getting the ERP, whoever the accounting software is, to give us an API that will handle our data. That's usually the hardest piece. And frankly, that oftentimes depends on the power of the merchant. If the merchant's a big merchant with the accounting software package, they can go and say, get them the API so that they can integrate. Sometimes the smaller ones have a harder time, but if we get the API, we can do the integration. Is this stuff achievable? Faster than you'd expect. And one of the nice things about what we do is any company can test us. Testing with a new processing provider is not that difficult. What we basically do is set up a new MID, which stands for Merchant ID number, and we tell the customer, we'll help you take 5% of your customer base, take specific customers that you want, take a geographic area, whatever you think is right, test it and run it for 60 days. Run it for 90 days if you want, because we don't require a contract. That's the other thing that's so different about us. We believe that our offering is so compelling that people want to test us, and then we let the results speak for themselves. If I can get a client to agree to do a test, it's going to be a 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10 chance that they're going to convert all their stuff over, because it's real easy to do a side-by-side comparison. It's real easy to have an experience with our merchant services group to see how much faster and easier it is. It's really easy to be able to keep track of what our cost is back to that specific merchant. So it's very easy to test. And since we don't require a contract, if for whatever reason you decide, no, this just is not for me, no harm, no foul. We'll deactivate the MID. The money's in your account. It's done. It's that easy to try. Now, most people go, how can that possibly be? Because when I get a processor, I have to sign a 3-year contract. Well, that's the difference between us and them. We believe that our value proposition is so strong, both from an immediate cost savings and a long-term data and capability to view all your customer data, say, per perspective, that people don't leave us. They don't leave us. When I worked at TSYS, our average merchant attrition rate, and it depended year to year, but was about 12%. Our average attrition rate at 8, granted we haven't been around as long as the global TSYS, is about 1.5%. That's a huge difference because we just offer a better solution in processing. Cost plus fully transparent pricing, fully reconciled electronic payments, cloud-based online payment data. We got it. We think we're what modern payments is headed towards. So is 8 a technology company, utilizing all the information? What do they do again? Well, they drive more profit to our customers through cost plus pricing. Like I said, we're looking at 1 to 1.5% better savings on all their electronic payments, maximizing efficiencies and reducing costs, all about minimizing false positives out there, which are abounding, especially as more and more companies go and do a card not present. Claim all the lost revenue. I'll show you during our demo that all companies leave some monies on the table. Whether they go back and get it or not, that's up to them, but we have a very clear path on how that can get done. Increased payment success and merchant account management because of our analytics that we have. And all this, full transparency, reconciliation automation, error discovery recovery tools, is all cloud-based in AWS. So again, you don't have to add a whole bunch of new systems on your side. It's just tapping into what we have and all cloud-based. After 2 years worth of information, we vault it. So the vaulting can be brought back if a customer requests it, but we keep 2 full years online that's completely accessible, like I'll show you during the demo. Our sales verticals. Added this one because you guys are, looking at being a referral partner for us. Our sales verticals usually fall into 4 main buckets. Sponsor banks, and yes, we want banks as our customers because that's the power of one to many. A bank comes to us and says, well, I have 5 ISOs that I work with, and each ISO has 5,000 merchants. Well, you can do the math. That saves me, that saves us, that saves Paul and I tons of times going after all those merchants. A bank comes in and says, this is who the processor is now. Game over for those, 25,000 merchants that's in our pocket. So we're working hard with banks. Payment providers. Yep, those are our competitors. Be it an ISO, be it a gateway, be it whomever, we want to be their back end. We think we have something so compelling that no, I'll take everybody out there who claims to be my competitor and say, you can do it better on the back end. I'm working with an ISO right now who was terrified when I sat down with her and said, I want to work with you on every one of your customers, every one of your merchants. Well, why would I do that? Well, because you're going to be able to give them lower costs, you're going to make the same amount of money, you're going to retain them longer, they're going to be happier in the long run. And you're going to be out ahead of all your competition because of the back end and all the capabilities we have. Oh, I thought you just wanted to take my customers. Nope, I want to become the back end platform for all your customers. Again, a different perspective than other people. Integrated partners. I need to change this on the deck, and I'm going to do that over the weekend. This is both integrated partners and referral partners. You guys would become a referral partner, but we have people out there who are integrated partners who actually offer services electronically to their clients, be they website builders, be they CRM companies, be they SEO companies, whomever. They actually embed what we have for their customers. So they're a big deal to us. And I'm going to show you a sample of a small CRM company down in Arizona of what we're proposing to do for them. I haven't closed them all the way yet. They're testing right now, but I'll show you what we proposed. And then, of course, we have businesses. And I'm going to take that and change it to just businesses because large or small, we can help them.
Yep.
I built a dental vertical that all I have is dentists and orthodontists and endodontists in it. And those guys, they're not huge, but, my average dentist bill is just under $1 million a year. And I am saving my average dentist about 1 full percentage points on their processing. Do they need all the back office stuff? Not really, but what they love, especially the managers up at the front desk, if there's ever a question, it's a quick call, it's a quick text. They can go in and do it themselves and figure out exactly what's happened. Where in the past, it was a phone call or a text or an online chat with a big call center, usually not English as first language speaking. Takes 2 days to get the reports back and then another half day to figure out what the problem was and then to get it fixed. It's one call to us and it's done. And that's a big deal for small businesses. Here's the sample I wanted to show you, and don't let all the stuff on the screen scare you. It's pretty straightforward. So this is a mid-sized CRM company. They're kind of like the entry level to Salesforce.com. You can go on $9.99 a month, buy their software and manage your sales, manage your customer service. It's a pretty slick system, and it's all SaaS based. And they do $60 million a year in sales. What we went through, we pulled out their pricing, measured the efficiency and error savings that we could make, and we came up with an annualized savings on that $60 million of $872,000 or 1.44%. That's a bottom line number. That's not, increased sales of $872,000. That's a bottom line savings. These guys do about 25% margin on their business. Well, $872,000 on a 25% margin business is like getting $3.2 million on the top end. And what did it take? What is it going to take to do this? Test with us and use this. That's it. I'm not telling you that to get those savings, you have to invest $50,000 with a bunch of analysts coming in. Test it and use it. That's what you get. The second part of this company that's really interesting is they have approximately 30,000 customers that, as part of the CRM package, they provide payments they provide the ability to take payments for those customers. They've had some adoption, they call them preferred and non-preferred, but the offering's not very good, and the CRM company, isn't getting a great payout. So we went through and said, okay, we can totally revamp that. We're going to say that of your current preferred customers, we're going to convert 25% of them to our system. Of the non-preferred, which are the ones who don't do a lot of business because they just don't really like the software they provide for payments processing, but they still do it because they don't think they have a choice, we can convert 35% of those people. And then you've got this slug of folks that don't use it anything at all. We're going to convert 10% of people. Well, when you do all the math through that, we say if we hit those targets, and I say we because they got to do a good job of presenting who we are to their customers, we got to do a good job of processing, we're going to write you a check back, and actually it's on every monthly basis, of 10 million additional new revenue to you for basically marketing who we are. You don't have to do the merchant services. You don't have to do the implementations. You just have to put us on the site and let us fully integrate into your CRM. That was the kicker, because that's net new revenue that has practically no expense associated with it other than the additional people they'll have to do the accounting for the additional funds, probably one extra head in their technology group to make sure that the integration is regularly working. But that's the kind of power we're talking about with potential clients who have businesses as other clients. Before I get into the system demo, any questions at this point?
I'm going to wait for my questions until I see the demo.
Okay, cool. All right, let me get over to the demo. All right. I think you can see that screen, right?
Yes.
And let me go back to the main dashboard. Hopefully I don't have to sign in again. Oh, good. Okay. I chose a customer up here that is a SaaS customer. So they do billings on a monthly basis to their customers. They automate dental and orthodontic offices. So they provide a SaaS-based software that, keeps track of all your patients, your scheduling, your equipment. What do you have online for personal protective gear? All the stuff. They do everything basically, and they charge. I forget what they're pricing. It depends on the size of the office, the number of doctors in the office, but it ranges. I guess it's $100 or maybe it's $95 a month. I don't remember, something like that. So these are all the billing cycles. And by the way, I chose full last year data, and this is live real data. Obviously, this isn't live because it's a picture looking last year, but it's all real data in there. You can see their billing cycles that they go through. We graphically represent this because, for example, the blue are the declines. Like right there, there's the, what is that, the month of, that would be the 1, 2, 3, that would be a 4 cycle. That would be April. Mm-hmm. They successfully charged $899,000. They were declined $88,000, and they had 3 transactions that were returns. Just a real quick summary of how things are looking, how's it going. Just a dashboard. Now, when I talk about transparency, I'm dead serious about transparency. This is for all last year. I trust you can see down here where it says merchant fees.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is calculated per every transaction, includes every decline, includes every chargeback, includes everything. All of our charges, all the Visa MasterCards, all the gateways, everything. Well, their cost came out to 2.2%. We had actually quoted them 22 basis points, and then all of our charges, it came out to be about a 2.25% is what we estimated the charges would be. It was going to vary a little bit. So we actually beat what we had projected for them. But that way they can see right off the bat, how are we doing? How are the transactions going? Do I have problems in there? That's fully reconciled so that they know we're delivering what we said we would deliver. And this is one of the most popular pages because they always like to see, well, they sure preach a lot about transparency. Let's go in and see what the numbers actually look like. There's what it looks like. Opportunity page. This is pretty cool. Again, this is for last year. So don't have the current stuff, which I can show you how easy that is to pull up, but all of last year, of all the billings they did, we estimate that there were problems with $2.135 million. Now, problems could be they didn't collect the full amount. It could be it was a full decline. It could be that there was something wrong. Here are the categories you can see. Insufficient funds. Now, you might say, well, how do you fix insufficient funds? If somebody doesn't have money on their card, either on a debit card basis or they're maxed out on their credit card, what do you do? Well, great question. Because of the way we track and the information we get, our technology will go back into your billing system and say, okay, here's the next month's worth of billing. Here are your 350 customers you're going to bill. Of those 350 customers, you've got 15 customers in there that are going to have issues with insufficient funds. So what do you do about that? Well, because of our technology, we can track when did they pay their card bill off so you've got a new cycle fresh to go? Or what was the history of their debit card when there was money put in the account? So instead of billing on the 15th of the month, we go back and say, hey, their cards are coming clean on the 12th of the month. So bill on the 12th for these clients, and you're going to have a much greater opportunity to collect the money and not have an insufficient funds issue come up.
Makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. And the beauty of it is we get the report, and here it comes. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to miss all of those. Then you've got things that are like fixable. Fixable has to do with we track the CVV code, and the CVV codes that you have on file are wrong. Now, whether it's a transposition thing, whether the client has gone out and got a new card, and the card number is the same, the expiration date's the same, but the CVV code changes, we'll tell you. Here's the problem. Don't run the billing on it, because guess what's going to happen? 9 out of 10 companies have a billing algorithm that goes bill it, bill it, bill it, and if you get 3 rejections, then throw it back to either the merchant services group or the accounting group and go out and talk to the customer. Well, guess what you've done in those 3 billings? You've paid a transaction.
3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. I've gone back and I've paid Visa and MasterCard 3 times for something that I knew in advance, or through our technology know in advance. Don't do. Get the correct information. It's that easy. Do not honors is always a big category. And by the way, do not honor, that's just a bucket for everything else. You've got all kinds of weird reasons that the credit card companies, or again, any of those 8 points could say, I'm not honoring that card. And they won't give you a specific what it's about, but with our technology, we can go back and say, let's find out why they did not honor it and what the opportunity is to get money collected on that card. Now, the next thing is, see this column called average success ratio?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I haven't changed that because average suck ratio doesn't sound very good. So we're saying we take all of our clients' data and say, from our actual client base, rounding up to the nearest 5 percentage points, what kind of success ratio do we have with these? And you can see some of these are really high, like insufficient funds.
Did we freeze again? Shoot.
Let's wait a moment. Here we go. Sure.
What are you looking for?
What are you running on right now? Are you running on the 971136?
Oh,
Because that sounds like you were.
that could be the problem, actually.
I think you're running on something else. There. That's your problem. Go this way.
If you can see me, hold on. Yeah, that was my problem.
Yep.
Now
You'll come back on.
Okay.
Yeah. You've got a file.
Okay.
These clients have. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Do I need to stop?
Back up a second, because we had frozen, and it shouldn't happen again now, because
Okay.
I just provided him some tech support, just to be clear.
Okay, I like it. Do you want me to go on, or do you want me to go back to the transaction piece?
Actually, if you could go back to we got to the suck rate, and
Yes.
we covered that. Did you get into an actual transaction?
I did not. If you want me to, I will. But on the opportunity screen, if I go in here, I can say I'm going to go in and I'm going to separate out and just look at. Let's see. I want to go and let's look at do not honors. Okay.
So is this the same, Dave, I apologize for interrupting you, but is this the same dashboard experience that the customer would have on their own?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. They can go in and look at at all of this that we're looking at. So I've got to fix it here. Let's go to this do not honor. Happened on 1/6/21. It was a sales decline. Been verified by industry, no lookup performed. So that tells you right there, for whatever reason, the the processor, the Rails didn't look up the actual card itself. So we tell them no card lookup was happening. If you resubmit this charge, and we have the ability to go in and say, and do a bin verification, that transaction will go through. And by the way, it's for $500. So we can then track that back. They can tag this one and see after they make the resubmission that it did. So yes, the answer is they can go transaction by transaction, whatever the transaction was, authorization, here, debit card, debit MasterCard, the amount of $12.82. See what we say here, action taken, action task, retry at 2nd, 6th, 16th, and 21st. Meaning, from what we see on this debit card, this is a day after they make their typical deposits. So their system can go in and try all 4 of those to collect that $1,282. Now, here's a good point. It seems really manual. Well, it is a little bit manual now. Not the next version of software, but the one that comes out end of Q2, beginning of Q3, will have all of this automated. So all that the customer, the merchant, has to do is go in and say, yep, I'm checking all of these, and I want you to go back and you do the work. So automatically it'll go back and do the work. What we charge them for that will be 20 to 25% of what we collect. Mm-hmm. So it's performance-based. And in talking to our clients, it's like, does that seem reasonable? Well, of course, I wouldn't have gotten that money anyway, and I don't have time to go out and do that on my own. I'd be happy to pay 25%. And again, it'll come back showing the submissions that we do, what we're able to collect, and we'll show it verifying going into their bank account.
And is that service available now?
No, the automated side isn't. You can go in and do this on your own, and we show you how, but they still have to do it on their own. We don't have it automated on the error discovery recovery yet. That's, like I say, end of
Q1 or Q2 through Q3.
Q3, right? And by the way, I met with our CTO day before yesterday. Mm-hmm. He asked me. He said, "Okay, from a sales side, what's the number one thing you need?" I said, "Get this error discovery recovery automated." That's the number one thing, because that's the piece that can make the biggest difference. I mean, if you go back and you look again at the total opportunity, and I get out and I go to the overview and I say, gosh, $995,000, and automatically, let's say I collect 25% of that, that's $250,000 I'm going to bring back to you, and what you've paid me for that is going to be $125,000, $75,000 to get $250,000.
And is that work done onshore or offshore when it is live?
It's done in a computer. There's no human intervention.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
No, Richard, you share in that revenue.
Yeah, that's right. To Paul's point, as a referral partner, that's part of the billing that you guys as a referral partner get to participate in. Okay, last one I want to show you here. And if you've got accounting and finance people, this one makes them giddy. So when you go and do a reconciliation, like I said before, a lot of companies really do want all the details, so they put the manpower against it. Others just go, okay, take 1%, 0.5%, 0.75%, just write it off. I'm going to show you full reconciliation of the entire year by journal entries that they've given us out of their GL. Here we go. Done. There you go. Fully reconciled, ready to be exported back into whatever your accounting ERP is, by journal entries that they've given us, 100% reconciled that you can see. That, again, to finance and accounting people, that's like, no way. It was that easy. Yep, it's that easy. It's that easy to do. Okay. Let's get out of this.
Does the dashboard time out after a certain amount of time if I'm not using it?
Really good question. You have the capabilities of setting it.
Okay.
I think the maximum amount of time we give is like 2 hours.
Okay.
You can, I guess if somebody really wanted it open all the time, it could be. So it's pretty powerful and, like I say, very, very easy to use. Okay, let me get our screen back up here. I'm going to stop sharing. Boom. Okay, hopefully you guys can see me now.
Yes.
Okay, great. And you saw the presentation. The other thing that Paul and I have committed to our referral partners, our integration partners, is come back and tell us and tell us what you need. We met with a really interesting lady earlier this morning who's in marketing, but she's got a whole lot of capability to get us in front of some great clients. And the point is, hey, tell us what you would want as a marketing person to go in. And I'm going to show you real quick an example of one of our leave behind pieces. And again, this is something that I had one of my referral partners come and tell me, this is what I need, this is what I want. Let me pull this up. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. This is for, whoops, where'd you go? There we go. This is for a typical e-commerce company. 2 pages, have a brief conversation, and here's what we leave behind. Again, I lifted right off who we are, data science company, the bullet points, how we help businesses drive more profit, decipher billing. You can read it. Really straightforward. Talk a little bit about some of the greater successes that we have, companies who are online, electronic payments. Here's what we do, reconciliation, automated accounting, blah, blah, blah. Then I give them just a brief success story. Took one of our, got a direct sales company, does about 100 million annually, broke down the savings areas. Price savings, increased portfolio collections, savings on product losses and fulfillment because they ship stuff out. And even though you might get an authorization on a card for a online company, a lot of times the full amount doesn't come through or they get a partial authorization and you've already shipped the product. So not only have you lost money, but you've also dipped into your stock and you've sent it out. Revenue recovery discovery that's managed by 8. This one we manually do. Again, it'll be automated in about 6 months. 38 basis points. You add all those up, the value comes out to be about 1.105% for this particular company. That's what we like to leave behind. I've got another one that's for I have a whole dental vertical, oral care vertical that I do. And along the same lines, well, here, I'll just show you.
So Dave, is there a one-pager that can be provided if you had someone in procurement or another part of the organization that said, can you give me a case study as a one-pager that I could give my CFO to justify we're going to do this?
Yes, I have that, and I have it in a couple of verticals. So I've got one for a pure e-commerce company. I've got one for an MLM, because MLMs they're so different, but they're interesting. Mm-hmm. And I could put one together. Great question, Jackie, for let's call it a healthcare company. I'd probably use one of our bigger oral care companies that do billing with both insurance and on the card, because people typically have to pay the deductible while they're there, or Correct. It's in advance, whatever. Yeah, I could absolutely do that.
I think there's an opportunity there, just from some of my experiences.
I'm just writing down your request. Please study. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let me get back to I'm getting better at doing this. Let me take this off, stop sharing. So those are that. So you've asked one question. Do you have others?
Well, I've been asking a few as we go, but for the API experience, is that all on your side, or is there some type of a guide that goes to the customer where they bolt onto the API?
Great question. Typically, what we do is we ask them for their API. So if they have, let's say, NetSuite, and they say, I want to do the downloads into my NetSuite accounting package. We already have the NetSuite accounting package API, so we just plug it in. Then what the question is make sure we've got your journal entries correct into what's going to feed through. If we don't have an API in our library to use, then it's a matter of, can you please get us the API? And then our implementation team goes through, they'll build the API from our side, give it to them, we'll do the tests, make sure the information is flowing back and forth, and then it's done. So it just depends on what the API is for. We've got one company who does one API for their accounting system, one API for their CRM. So it's different.
Okay. Makes sense.
And again, APIs are typically just what the protocol and what the data has to be conformed, how it has to be organized before it transfers through. So it's a little bit, and frankly, Jackie, that is typically the hardest part of this process, and it's not that hard. It's getting either get us the API or get us the definition of what the API has to look like so we can build it to deliver the data.
I think that's common with most organizations, that part of bolting onto the API. But what onboard time do you see? Is it 2 weeks, 30 days?
Great question. For any time you go to a new or different processor or add a processor, you still have to be underwritten. But underwriting now, because we have, again, Global TSYS brought us to probably their most aggressive, most forward-thinking underwriting bank, Chesapeake Bank out of Boston. We usually can get underwriting done in a day, maybe a day and a half. Underwriting takes that long. Then we usually take 1 full day of testing. So we'll put across, a dozen test transactions through the system. Depending on how many physical POS terminals they have, that's usually the long pole in the tent. So if you've got a provider that has, let's say, 50 offices, and every office has 2 terminals, well, that's where you're going to have a longer period, because you have to get, if you don't have a POS terminal that's compatible, and a lot of them aren't, a lot of them are proprietary, a lot of them won't be, you're going to have to replace them, then that's a period of time for however long it takes to get them shipped out and get them up and running. Online companies who don't use POS terminals, and let's say it's embedded into their site to make their payments with their customers, that's a day, maybe a day and a half to turn that around.
Okay. Thank you.
And then what we like to do is we like to have at least a 2-session, 1 hour per session training on the dashboard with whatever group is going to be using it, the most. If it's the finance and accounting group, if it's the billing group. I've got one client who has a separate billing group that actually is distinct and apart from the finance and accounting group, because they like the separation. Apparently they had issues in the past with that. So we actually train both groups, finance and accounting and the billing group. So it just depends on what's the best way to go.
Okay, thank you.
Not that long. And again, because we push hard to say test it, you can get that test up and running in, if we don't have a lot of terminals to put out there, a week.
Okay. All of the data security, is it running through AWS?
When you are a processor, you have to do both. You have to do both data security through your cloud provider and through the PCI requirements. So our data security requires that besides what we do with AWS, all of the we don't store credit card numbers. We get the tokenization for the card. But the tokens have to be stored in a separate server offline with somebody else. So part of the PCI requirement is you have to do that separately. That's just the rules of the road for them.
Good.
And again, PCI requirements are as tough as anybody in the electronics industry for making sure you're required. And we just passed our latest audit, which was in December. So certificates on file.
Okay, good. I'm familiar with PCI, so that was a good answer. Thank you. And my last question. Do you think that because there's not a contract involved or there's no subscription base, it may make folks a little skeptical?
You know what? You've gotten my head. You're asking the best questions. One of my biggest oral care providers, that was an issue. And the person in the legal department came back and said, if we take this to the next step where we start testing with various, companies within the company, we're going to have a contract. And it's like, well, okay, we'll be happy to do that. We just want you to know we don't require that. So we count on our referral partners to tell us, do we need that or not? Conceptually, it's great to give that pitch, but absolutely, I've already had one say, we've got to have a contract. We want to see in writing that you're not going the accountability. Most don't. Most, like, I'm thrilled because my contract I have right now with Chase Payment Tech or with Vantiv WorldPay is so onerous. I don't want that. Okay. And we've got a library of ones that we've used. We'll be happy to come back and give them one if they want. Usually on the ones that we've done that I know of, and I don't know of all of them, we usually make it a 1-year contract, automatically renewable. So it's real easy. Again, we want to make the flexibility that if you're not happy, let's get you happy, as opposed to lock you up. But if somebody said, I want you to lock me up for 5 years, but give me an easy out, okay. But if that's what it takes to get the enterprise account, okay, we'll do that.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Yes, I think things like that just naturally, they think there's going to be an NDA, a BAA, other things, terms and conditions.
Jackie, when we typically, on a typical sales cycle, after that initial pitch and I go through all this stuff, the first thing that I either am asked for or I'll ask for before I ask for their 2 months worth of statements is, let's get an NDA into place. Mm-hmm. Let's get a mutual NDA into place. We'll be happy to use theirs. We've got a couple of versions that we use on our side. Whatever makes them comfortable to get them to give us, a couple of months of processing so that we can do our analysis, come back, and what we base our pricing on is that analysis. We show them the buckets on where we think we're going to have the savings, and then it's typically, you trudge through the decision makers and get somebody to say, okay, I want to test, get a test going. Sometimes, like at the big oral care provider, they gave us 2 of their companies to test with, and we worked through it, from there.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Those are my questions. Sorry.
No apologies. I love the questions. It's really good questions. What scares me is when we get referral partners who just kind of sit there going, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So what can we do to get you ready? And by the way, we're always here, Paul, myself, together, to get on with your referral targets as soon as you feel it's ready. If it requires to be face-to-face, we can do that. Obviously, we're careful not to go out for every $2-5 million account face-to-face. But if it's something that leads to something bigger or that, we're happy to get on a plane, go meet them face-to-face. But in this world of COVID, I got to tell you, I'd probably have 1 in 15 now that requires a face-to-face meeting. Most just are ready to do the deal, get the testing done. Now, after testing, when it's time to start converting, the rest of the company, then we get into face-to-face time. But usually doesn't take that to get started.
Good.
Okay. All right.
Wonderful to meet you guys. We went a little bit beyond our hour mark, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Obviously, your main point of contact is Paul.
Yes.
But I'm here to support and help, and would love to see you guys be crazy successful, because that means we're going to be crazy successful.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
I have some ideas. So, Paul, always good to see you.
You
We'll talk soon.
Yes.
We'll talk soon.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
both.
you both.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.